Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Bulletproof BJJ podcast. I am JT.
What's up, guys? I'm Joey.
And today, guys, we're getting into the 5 best strength moves for BJJ. Now, you've got a lot of options out there for different lifts, but we have identified the 5 moves we like best. And we're going to explain to you how they give you the most bang for your buck and how they translate to your jiu-jitsu. Now, the first cab off the rank is the pistol squat. Tell me, Joey, why is the pistol squat such an important move for those who do jiu-jitsu?
Well, and I guess just one thing I want to add to that was that when compiling a list like this,
yes,
you have to cut out good things because we're trying to like simmer it down to like 6, of the best, which means there's heaps of other really awesome ones that didn't make the cut. So in that regard, it's like, all right, well, we've chosen the pistol. Let's go into that. Look, pistol squat, obviously it's like it's one of those pinnacles of upper body and body weight, lower body and body weight strength. Yes. What I like about it most is the mobility that it requires through the ankle and through the knee.
Yeah, it is actually a mobility test, guys. So if you've ever tried to do a pistol squat, you're standing on one leg. If you've never heard of a pistol squat, I'll do my best to articulate it to you. You're standing on one leg with your other leg extended, your hands reaching out in front of you, and you're looking to squat all the way down. You're looking to bring your butt down towards your heel as close as you can without falling backwards, and then be able to come back up again. Now, this requires a lot of range at the knee, the hip, but also the ankle. And that's something you cannot hide from. And the other great thing is you can regress it. So if you can't do a full pistol, you can work at a partial range and then gradually build up. The other thing is too, guys, there's nowhere to hide. If you can do it, it's pretty clear. You can go down and you can go all the way up. Now, some people might be able to do 1 or 2, but to be able to do a good set with clean technique for anywhere between 6 to 10 reps, there's no lies there.
Yeah, it's one of those ones like you can be really strong in the lower body. You could have a great back squat. You could do all the the kettlebell like squatting stuff in the world, barbell type stuff, but you may not have the mobility to do the pistol. And so because it has that mobility aspect built into it, for us that just makes it like, hey, if you've got to choose one, that's the one. It's infinitely challenging, and obviously once you got it, you can then add weight to it as well, and it becomes a loaded exercise.
Definitely. And look, when I first had heard about this move, I was like, wow, I already did squats and I did a lot of squats. And then I was like, whoa, this is a different beast because it actually takes a bit of stability in your ankle as well, right? For you to not fall over, there's a degree of control through your core. You have to be able to fully compress. So if you've got a really stiff lower back and you can't actually really compress because you do get a bit of rounding through the hip at the back there, you're not going to be able to complete the movement. And when a friend of mine said, hey, have you heard of this guy called Steve Cotter? And I was like, well, who's that? And they're like, check it out.
Some blue belt.
He's a blue belt now. But Steve Cotter, in his time, and still to this day, a great kettlebell instructor, but basically in his prime, one of the most famous kettlebell lifters and one of the head of the RKC, the Russian Kettlebell Challenge, he was hopping on and off a table. So he was going from a full pistol, hopping up onto the desk, which was at least a meter or more, into a pistol, jumping off the desk down into a pistol and doing multiple reps. And I was like, oh my God, my brain exploded. So I was like, okay, I need to master this thing. And that was before I even did jiu-jitsu. But now having played a degree of, guard, done spider guard, and had to like stay tight when I was doing knee cuts and stuff like that, the applicability of the pistol to jiu-jitsu is so much more obvious to me.
Yeah, I mean, even for people like thinking about like if you're trying to stand up, like come up on it, like from your guard, like trying to come up on a single, or maybe like you got an X-guard sweep and then you're trying to come up like Marcelo Garcia style. If you've got this ability to get your heel into your butt, foot on the floor, and then like load up and stand, like it's such an advantage, right? Like and that requires great knee mobility, great ankle mobility, great strength through that range. And all of that stuff is wrapped up in the pistol squat.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why, obviously there'll be people out here who will hear this and be like, yeah, but doesn't an ass to grass back squat tick the same box? Look, guys, for range, there's lots of different variations. But the reason why we've settled on this one is because, you know, it is so simple but so effective.
Yeah, and I think something for us too that we probably don't talk about a huge amount, but is a little bit sort of built into like our values, is that when you don't require equipment for something, like there's just an efficiency that comes along with that. And it's like, obviously we love barbell stuff, we love kettlebell stuff, JT loves the sandbags, like equipment is important, but there's almost like, if you can find a really excellent bodyweight exercise, it's almost worth a little bit more than its externally loaded counterpart, because it's like, holy shit, you don't need anything to practice this thing.
That's right. And yeah, there is a degree of skill involved, but if you turn into a beast, you can load up a pistol.
Yeah, fucking oath.
Yeah, you can add some weight. So that's number one. Number two, my friends, is we are going to look at the single leg deadlift. So I love deadlifts in general, but why is the single leg deadlift so much better, or why do we see it as a better choice?
So I guess the first thing to mention there is that we've chosen both a single leg squat and a single leg like hinging exercise.
Yes.
And the beauty of that is that there's balance is built into it. So like with the pistol, when you're working a single leg deadlift, you are unstable. Like when you're first doing it, you're very unstable. As you get better, that improves.
Yes.
But so there's a stability and a balance aspect to it, which is like, that is jiu-jitsu, right? Like when someone's attacking you in their guard and you're standing up and they're like
hopping on one foot.
Yeah, it's all about that, right? So you're building that into the strength exercise, and a single leg does that like really well. But then the other part of it is that you're focusing on this strengthening through the posterior chain. So hamstring, glutes, lower back, which we didn't say with the pistol, but pistol's obviously sort of more about the quad. Obviously everything's involved, but pistol is more of a squat. So we're talking more quad. With the deadlift, you're really hitting the backside of the legs and the hip. And just having that base is really important for jiu-jitsu.
Definitely. And it's interesting to me actually seeing it more and more now, lots of strength coaches prescribing variations on a single leg deadlift as a corrective exercise. Because depending on how you load it, guys, it's really teaching your hip to re-coordinate. And for any of you out there who train judo, who know what an uchimata is, which is the kind of, I guess apart from like a seoinage, which is a shoulder throw, it's the big whip and dip where someone puts a leg underneath the other person and flips them up. It looks like they're almost doing a forward fold into a front split and flipping the person over. That's a single leg deadlift. Like in its most dynamic, most like, really cool, applicable form. And having strong and flexible hamstrings, that is something not many people have. There's people out there who have strong hamstrings, but in a limited range. And whether you're playing guard or you're on top and you're trying to do a throw, being able to go to like a decent level of range under load is something almost no one can do. So the reason why I love the single leg deadlift is as you get better, you can even go so far as to elevate yourself. So it's a deficit, so you're getting more stretch, but you have to work so hard through coordinating the muscles. You can't not pay attention. So in terms of getting your glute working to stabilize your hip, keeping your core braced so you don't tip off center, and then also gripping the ground with your foot for stability. So many of these things up the posterior chain mean that lifting not even like the biggest weight in the world, you can get dramatically stronger. Whereas I have found with myself and also some of my people doing Bulletproof, when they start to do a normal deadlift, people get strong pretty quick. Like even people who are untrained, you just get them deadlifting twice a week and the numbers go up, and then it's just like more weight on the bar. But that doesn't mean the lift is getting better. So I feel like what is so good about the single leg deadlift is with minimal weight, you can get dramatically stronger.
Yeah, that's right. It's that kind of skill thing, isn't it? And I think like say another really good like hamstring exercise, say a Nordic curl or a Harrop curl, which we like.
Yep.
Excellent, right? Excellent exercise. However, they don't like you're sitting down on your knees when you do those exercises.
Yes.
So again, if we're talking specific to jiu-jitsu, standing on your leg, balancing on the one leg, trying to execute this movement proficiently and with load, it just has so many layers in it that really do carry over to how you train and how you move on the mats.
Definitely. And just one little thing I'd like to mention relevant to, because we do a mixture of bilateral and unilateral. So like two limbs working together, like for example, a pull-up using two hands or a push-up, and then unilateral being single-sided, like a pistol or a single leg deadlift. It has been shown that when you do unilateral activity, you get greater recruitment on that side. So if you are trying to get stronger, even though, it takes longer because, okay, I've got to do my left and my right side, you will ultimately get stronger over time, or you'll get better recruitment. So you can develop your power and coordination better in that way.
Yeah, love it. Again, I think the big test is that you could take, 10 people who are really quite good at deadlifting, and then you could get them to do it on one leg. And it's not like you're going to see that they're just 50% weaker. They're going to be weaker than that. And it's because it is exponentially harder because of the balance and the instability and all these things. So again, it just kind of is testament to, well, that's the one we like because it's got so much built into it.
Yeah, definitely. And so number 3 is my all-time favorite, the Turkish get-up, or the TGU as it is otherwise known. Because for those of you out there who's had to do a few technical stand-ups in your life, depending on what academy you train at, you do a break fall, you got to do a technical stand-up. The Turkish get-up is basically a technical stand-up holding a weight above you. Whether you do it with a kettlebell, a dumbbell, a barbell, this move hits all of the bases, ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, I mean, the Turkish get-up, if you kind of boil it down, it has like 6 exercises in it, doesn't it? There's a pressing aspect, there's a straight arm shoulder aspect, there's the hip extension, there's the side bend, there's the lunge, like it's all in there.
Yeah.
And obviously it's looking at, say take the pistol or the single leg deadlift, you could say that they're more isolated movements because they're targeting less muscle groups, even though they're both pretty whole body as well. But the TGU just really, it's all in there. And for that reason, it's like, for me, I'm like, man, how could you exclude that? Like that is just bang for buck. If you are only going to do one exercise and you want to get a workout done, do that for 20 minutes.
Yeah, right. That's right. And I think the thing is now, even it's kind of similar to what I was saying about the single leg deadlift, I'm seeing more conventional S&C coaches who wouldn't necessarily be dabbling in kettlebell training or any kind of functional training.
Oh, he said functional.
Oof. Hot button word. Be careful. But what I want to say with that is you're seeing people prescribe it because they're like, it's good for your shoulder in this way. It's good for your hip in this way. And this is for people who don't even do jiu-jitsu. Whereas if you've got a big human on top of you and they're trying to squash you and you are able to get a stiff arm in grab their lapel, push them off, stand up and make some space, come up to your feet, wrestle them, that is an exceptionally valuable thing to have because even though you guys may not know it, when you start with the Turkish get-up, you are on the ground and you're starting with a weight on your chest. You have to press it up to an extended position and then you've got to get up. There's not many moves that start you from that dead, stop, vulnerable spot other than trying to get up off your back, in jiu-jitsu.
It's true. Yeah, most exercise start standing, come down, go back up, don't they?
Yeah. So, and the other thing too, from a shoulder stability point of view, if you have shoulder issues and you do this, with a light weight, it's actually really good for your shoulder because you're working your shoulder through all these different ranges with your arms straight. So your rotator cuff is working really hard just to keep it in alignment and keep your body supporting it. And essentially you're moving your body around the weight as opposed to moving the weight around your body, which even though it doesn't sound like much of a big change, guys, if you've ever had a shoulder issue, sometimes it hurts even just to lift your arm. But what's great about this is you're starting stabilized, locking in. Technically, you don't move your arm, you're just moving your body around. And with all those muscles fired up, the shoulder is more stable. So this is another side benefit.
Yeah, I think with a big whole body movement like the Turkish get up, something that is built into it that is not spoken about conventionally in the S&C world is the coordination.
Yes.
And it's like coordination, skill development, very much on the same line. What we notice with a lot of folks who come in to train jiu-jitsu is that they don't necessarily have coordination built into their bodies yet. For anyone that's come from a background of athletics, they have coordination generally because it's just part of physical development through sports and whatnot. But for someone coming in who just, whatever, maybe didn't play a lot of sports, jiu-jitsu is maybe their first thing, you can see that the coordination's not there. So an exercise like the Turkish get-up, although it is going to be extremely challenging to start, and you're probably going to have to scale it back to sort of smaller sections of the movement, once that person is proficient at it, that is building a base of coordination that will carry over to how they move on the mats.
Definitely.
And I mean, that is the same with any compound exercise like the other ones we're talking about today. So I think that's just a really worthwhile mentioning, that is that it helps to build that physical ability moving forward, which transfers to any sport.
Yeah, and I think that's what we can say very comfortably, that these are more skilled movements. So not only will you get stronger, you'll become a more skilled mover. And that's what we're about. We're trying to help you guys become better movers. Awesome. Now, next thing's next. A staple movement, which we should all be doing, which is the pull-up. So, I mean,
Upper body.
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I would say it's my weaker move at the moment amongst all my movements. It's because I'm feeling a bit heavy, guys. A bit chunky, to be honest.
What are you tipping the scales at?
Power to weight ratio, 92.5, bro.
Oof, 92.5.
Chubby.
I mean, that was 4 and 7 hours ago, so.
Who knows?
Yeah.
I've eaten breakfast. But I mean, the thing about this is that it will really highlight if your grip and your upper body pulling power isn't there. And also your core, guys. This is something that's severely underestimated, your ability to brace your torso without your legs flopping around and swinging, no kipping. We're talking about an actual pull-up. And this one I'm going to pass to you, Joe, because you are the technician.
Thank you. The pull-up is the overhand version, just to be clear. The chin-up is the underhand version.
Yep.
Right? So pull-ups overhand. It is harder for most people. I have met 1 or 2 people that find pull-ups easier than chin-ups. But for the majority of folks, chin-ups are much easier. It's a more comfortable grip. You don't have this. You've got a lot more external rotation through the shoulder, more bicep recruitment. It's just easier to get your chest to the bar kind of thing. When you go to the pull-up, now you start to move into a slightly mechanically disadvantaged position through the shoulder. And it's the recruitment through the bicep isn't quite as much. And it really becomes more of an expression of upper body strength, right? So we're talking about the muscles of the back, which are controlling the scapula. We're talking about the lower trap muscle. And we're also talking, obviously, like JT said, grip and forearm and obviously bicep and all that. So a lot of good stuff built into it. I think, you know, from a human perspective, being able to pull your body weight up vertically, like you were scaling a cliff or climbing a tree, or, you know, running from the Gungies, having to jump the fence.
Just getting chased down.
Gungies are police. It's a slang term for police in Australia.
The 5-0.
The 5-0.
The 12.
But this is kind of like foundational, and it's important. And obviously, there's a huge carryover to jiu-jitsu. It's pulling, and pulling strength is, I mean, that is largely what jiu-jitsu is, right?
It is.
Besides framing and whatnot, it's like when you've got a grip, you are pulling, right? So you're using that action all the time. The thing about it that I really like, and this is where jiu-jitsu people can come a bit unstuck with pulling work, is that because of the nature of all of the pulling in jiu-jitsu, we can often end up with strong shoulders, but also a little bit dysfunctional.
Yes.
Because we pull with the scapula, which is the shoulder blade, in funny positions, right? So we're not thinking about how we're pulling when we're doing jiu-jitsu. We're just thinking about fucking not losing and trying to sub the dude, right? So when we come into the gym and we train an exercise like a pull-up, where we have a very specific position that we want the shoulder blades to be in, which is generally down and back, this highlights deficiencies in scapular function. And this just means that we can use an exercise like that to restore balance and increase strength and improve posture for someone that is training jiu-jitsu, or for anyone on this planet.
Definitely. And I would venture in here to say that not everybody is ready to do a pull-up.
No.
It's a challenge, guys. Like, keep it real. I mean, I've been doing chin-ups and pull-ups for the best part of 20 years or more. And really, it's a move that needs frequency. You need to be doing it regularly. If it's a move that you've never really touched on, and you do, say, like some single arm rows with a dumbbell, or you do some bent over rows with a barbell, that's all very well and good. but the bodily coordination required for you to retract your scap, like keep your midline tight and actually pull your chest up towards the bar is really tough. And so what is great about it as a movement is you can regress it in a lot of ways, which means even if you're starting from nothing, you're a white belt in terms of pull-ups, you can build up. It's just going to take some time, and you got to put a little bit more time into it. It's not something that's just going to happen straight away.
Yeah, I think we got to make clear with any body weight strength exercise, you need to change. If you can't do that movement, you need to build up to it using other movements. So with the pull-up, it's like, well, what are the regressions? They'd be, different versions of bodyweight rows and that kind of thing and static holds. Whereas with something like a single leg deadlift, we could just lighten the load.
Yes.
So it's more accessible in a sense. We've got to speak to like the female listeners here because obviously upper body strength, guys are given more upper body strength. Nature gives
testosterone is a blessing, and it's mainly a blessing. It's not a curse, really. But
but that said, women generally proportionally have more lower body strength, right? Like
true,
proportionally than a male does.
Depending, and look, actually, this was actually brought to my attention. I was trying to remember. I was listening to a program. It was Doctor of Physiology, a lady. It wasn't Rhonda Fitzpatrick or anything like that. It was a lady talking about how women have a greater proportion of red muscle fiber types. They also have greater pain tolerance.
Slower twitch?
Yeah, slower twitch, but better endurance.
Right.
Can last longer and can put up with more bullshit because they have to live with men. But that's the thing, right? Like, I guess if we look at it, when we see those female athletes who have greater amounts of white muscle fiber types, we're talking about the champ from the UFC, Brazilian knockout killer.
Oh, Amanda Nunes.
It's
my thing.
Yeah, she has a good amount of white muscle fiber types.
Yeah.
But that's the exception.
It's an outlier.
That's the exception.
That's right.
And for anyone out there, male or female, you can recognize somebody, like you just see somebody like, whoa, they are. Look at them.
Not the norm.
They are not normal.
That's special,
Yeah, straight away you can see the difference.
But yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like for upper body strength, and we're talking, this would be the same for body weight, pushing as well, like push-ups and dips and whatnot. It is a steeper hill to climb for females. And so we would have different standards then for what would be considered like proficient or advanced for a female versus a male. Really just to acknowledge that it is that steeper hill. I would say like any female that can complete 1 to 5 reps of a pull-up is advanced in their upper body strength.
Sure.
And for a lot of females that will take years to attain. For a lot of dudes that will take years to attain, but I think for most guys, they're going to get to that point sooner.
Yeah, and possibly it's just also how we're trained culturally, right? Like when you're a young man, it's like, yeah, do push-ups, do pull-ups, better not do ballet. That's girly. I mean, maybe this is just an Australian thing. I don't know about you guys out there in the UK or in the USA or anywhere else in Europe, but it's definitely a culturally pushed thing. Like, oh, you're female, you should do dancing, or you should do swimming, or like don't, and it's culturally indoctrinated. It's like, you don't want to be too muscly. I mean, I have guys coming to me going, look, I don't want to get too jacked. It's like, bro, it's way harder than it seems. Don't worry, you're not gonna have to worry about that too much, But the truth is that, like, if you've been doing pull-ups since you're a kid, like say you're a female gymnast, mate, your power to weight ratio is probably good. Day. Yeah, you're just going to do it all day, and it's something that does take a fair bit of practice, guys. So if it's not in your diet of exercise, you got to get it in there.
Get it in.
And that leads us to our next move, and that is the bottoms-up press with a kettlebell. And a lot of people, so when you look at these 5 exercises that we've put on the table, guys, we've got our lower body knee dominant movement, a quad dominant movement, which is our pistol, our hip dominant movement for our single leg deadlift. We've got our core but whole body movement, TGU, covering so many bases there. Our upper body pull, and now we're looking at a pressing motion. And the reason why, Joey and I have gone back and forth on this because we were talking about dips, ring dips.
Great exercise.
Great exercise, you know. I mean, look, if you're in the realm of a handstand push-up, God bless you, John T. Marsh, you bastard. There's not many people out there going to do a real clean freestanding handstand push-up. That's just insano levels. But the reason why I'm all about that bottoms-up press is because it requires core strength, shoulder strength, and grip strength in very big amounts across the board. And as a jiu-jitsu person, you need that in your life.
Yeah, again, it combines multiple things to make it superior. We did go back and forth. It's like, man, and I really love dips. I love ring dips and variations of that. But it was like, you know what? There's no real demand on the grip. There is demand on the core in that, but the way that the bottoms up press challenges the core and challenges the grip while also building that pressing strength is kind of very unique to it. And you know, for someone trained jiu-jitsu, grip is just such a huge part of the sport that you do want to be addressing it in your strength and mobility training.
Yeah, and here's the interesting thing. There's a guy called Eric Cressy who's known as the shoulder guy. He works with a lot of baseball players in the USA. And the thing that just occurred to me...
Is that the United States of America?
The United States of America. It was amazing to me. I've been watching that guy forever. He was doing bottoms-up pressing with baseball athletes. And he had them doing overhead carries in a bottoms-up position. Why? Because it gets huge rotator cuff recruitment. When you really crush your grip as hard as you can, guys, that gets your rotator cuff fired up. The problem is when you try and load up your shoulder without gripping firmly, then you're really loading up, the connective tissues of the shoulder, tendons and ligaments, and the strain going directly into that joint. When you better fire up your rotator cuff muscles, which are the small muscles at the back of your shoulder, which are responsible for so many movements, it is more stable. It is safer. And the better you can coordinate gripping firmly and pressing, the stronger your press will be. Now, there is a skill requirement here, guys, and that is, I guess, the thing that we're looking at with all these movements, the thing they have in common, they are more skilled. You got to be careful not to drop the kettlebell in your freaking face.
Of course.
don't.
It's a good incentive to do it well.
Pro tip: don't drop the kettlebell. Don't spot with your cheekbones. But when you're doing it, if you've never done it before, guys, the level of concentration you have to exert to maintain your grip, keep your core stable, and actually lift this thing up above your head and come back down is extremely challenging.
Yeah.
I find it to be probably the hardest press variation.
I would agree. Just a little on the rotator cuff piece, just to paint the picture for folks. What the fuck? You have your shoulder's a really complex joint. You have the muscles on the outside, which we all know. It's like the deltoids. That's the one that when you used to go and do the bodybuilding sets, like front, side,
shoulder boulders, bro.
Yeah, right. But the rotator cuff is a set of muscles underneath that. And so it's really common when you hurt your shoulder, you don't tend to hurt your deltoids.
No.
You hurt these smaller, more intricate, complex network of muscles underneath, and that's your rotator cuff. And so when we're talking about like true shoulder health and true strength and stability and being able to recruit, to push and to pull, the rotator cuff is really like it's all working, but the rotator cuff is really the centerpiece of that. And so like JT's saying, bottoms up press builds the shit out of that.
Yeah, definitely. And just within that, guys, the great thing is oftentimes people get stuck and the only way they can improve a movement is by making it heavier. But what we can do is if for example, you've got a kettlebell at home, you've got a single kettlebell, it's like say it's an 8 kilo or 10 kilo, and you're like, I just can't even do a bottom up press. I guess the thing that I have loved about kettlebells over the years is that you can do a bit of variation. So you can start with a conventional press where the handle is in your hand and the kettlebell is resting on your forearm. The next step on progressing that is a palm press where you are balancing the circular side of the kettlebell with the handle, not holding onto the handle, it's just jutting out. That means you can't grip very well and you have to work far harder to stabilize the kettlebell. And that is a halfway step once you can kind of master the palm press to then trying a bottoms up press. And these things can work. Every time you get a little bit heavier and you get a little bit better, you can then go to a progression on movement which requires more skill. And that's the thing I love about this, guys. You can get more out of less weight. You can literally get stronger, not lifting as heavy, but lifting with more skill. So, I mean, that's where I'm at, Joey. That's why I love these things. I mean, I know there's plenty of people
That's
out
our
there.
5, isn't it?
That's our 5. And look, I know there's people out there going to be like, yo, what about bench press, man?
Yeah.
Don't forget about bloody bench press.
What about kettlebell swing, man? Tim Ferriss always talks about it.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, I love
that's the thing, right? We don't, there's so many good exercises.
Yeah.
And again, we've had to choose them based on like our criteria of what gives us the most bang for buck and has the biggest carryover to the mats. Hence the 5 we picked.
These are the ones. And this is a intro really, isn't it, Joseph? When we start to talk about a new thing, guys, and that is the Bulletproof BJJ standards.
Yeah. So JT and I have been redesigning the foundation program of Bulletproof, which is really the main program that we offer. And we've been looking at it. We've been running the one we have for, I don't know, a year and a half. Obviously, we have our kettlebell program. We have some other stuff on there. It's all really good. But we're like, man, we've been watching it. We've been seeing how it plays out with our students and the people using it. And we're like, there's certain things that just aren't being addressed. And the big challenge for us has always been, how do we address all of the things that we think are important for a jiu-jitsu player who really can only afford to get to the gym a couple times a week, because most people want to be on the mats more, not in the gym more.
Yes.
And so what we've come up with is our 13 top movements, and that's strength and mobility. The 5 movements we went through today are in there, and then there's a bunch of others which you'll learn about soon enough. But what we've done is we've ranked these movements, and we believe that these 13 movements, if you can achieve some level of mastery across all of them, then you will be an extremely bulletproof specimen. Supreme physical impressiveness.
Yes.
It's actually really fucking hard because there's strength and there's mobility. And oftentimes we'll find that people are good at one or the other. And so what we've done is we've ranked the movements from a white to black belt scale. And so for you, you can test yourself across these and see where you rank. And that will be a really cool indicator, because you can go, wow, I'm like purple belt at this stuff, but this shit here, I'm not even a white belt yet.
Yeah.
And that just tells you, hey, this is what you should be working on. So it's a really cool diagnostic tool.
It is.
The way that users are going to engage with it through our program is going to be next level. We've actually got some development going on right now so that it's it's like a living program that evolves. And as you get better at things, you can progress certain movements to the next variation. So you're moving yourself through the standards to get to a higher belt rank. But it moves in line with your progress. So if you're moving faster on something, it'll progress faster. If you need more time on another thing, you take as much time as you need. We're super excited about it.
Oh, I'm psyched. It's like, it's such a great thing, guys, because, you know, basically by putting this more advanced approach in, like kind of the choose your own adventure in terms of like, hey, I'm getting better at this movement. Hey, I've completed that. I'm good at this. And it advances you. It's almost as if we're there with you saying, hey, you're good enough here. Let's go up a level. And there will be a degree at which we need to check on you guys. We need to say, hey, is that good enough? Because you might be at home being like, whoa, I'm killing this. And maybe your technique isn't where it should be. And there's going to be a degree of accountability. We're not going to get deep into it today. But yeah, just letting you know that by your improvement through the program, we will be checking on you and assisting you. So you're not going to be alone in this. And I don't think that's ever been the case, but just by the structure of the new standards, we will be making sure that you are keeping the standard and that you can, you know, you can hold your belt up with pride.
Yeah, that's right. We don't want people progressing with shit technique, because I mean everything we're talking about comes back to doing it well. And if you do it well, you build this foundation of strength and mobility that allows you to go to the greatest heights. If you do it shit, and we've all seen people who train hard but train like shit, they get to a certain point, it gets them to a place, but they ultimately plateau because the foundation is rubbish. So we're going to be putting some inbuilt accountability there so that we keep the standard for you guys, which maintains the standard of this whole thing, and it makes sure that you guys are getting absolutely as strong as you can, as mobile as you can, and building a body that is really as injury proof as we can possibly make it.
Definitely. And I think that's a good note to leave it on, Joe.
Very nice. Guys, thank you for listening. You can get at us, bulletproof.bjj.com. If you need any help, if you want to check out the program, you can take a free trial there. Get us on the IG, bulletproof.bjj.com. And also check out the YouTube channel because we're posting more videos every week. We actually got the podcast on the YouTube channel now. We're a few episodes behind, but there is a video version. And you can see us breaking down the movements that we're talking about today on the YouTube channel. So if you want to if you couldn't really visualize some of the things we're talking about, get on there and have a look. You'll see what's up.
Definitely. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, JT.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, guys.